going to talk about a number of critical misunderstandings that product marketing managers have with respect to positioning. So one of the first mistakes is believing that emotional positioning is better than rational or functional positioning. This simply isn't true. We have research from McKinsey, for example, showing that positioning around functional benefits or things like product features tend to generate stronger word of mouth than positioning around emotions. And this is even true when we're talking about consumer products like cosmetics, where you would think that emotional positioning would be better. Now, my general view on this is that high-level positioning is not necessarily better than low-level positioning. And what I mean here is we're talking about the value ladder. So at the bottom, you have technical features, and at the top, you have kind of emotions, or in the business-to-business space, it'd be something like helping profitability, versus at the bottom, it might be something like connecting two items, things like that. Do not make the assumption that higher level benefits or higher level positioning is superior than functional level positioning. Okay, another critical misunderstanding is believing that positioning is just product positioning. So there's different types of positioning. Product positioning tends to be more rational. The reason it's more rational is because when people are evaluating products, it is because they want to make a decision to trial the product, to do a pilot of the product, to purchase the product, okay? But then there's also brand positioning, which is separate. Brand positioning tends to be more emotional. It tends to be more focused on the long term, and it isn't necessarily based around rational things because it's not trying to get people to make a rational decision. It's trying to get people to remember your brand and associate it with some sort of product category or some sort of purchase decision, but not in a precise analytical way, more in kind of a broad psychological way. So you can position your product and your brand differently, and there tends to be a split there between rational and emotional, but that's not universally true. Now, you also have services, which may be supplementing or separate from the product that you're selling. You can position the services differently. Okay, now, one of the more common mistakes that I see is with advertising. So your advertisement can take positioning that is different from your product and that is different from your brand. The reason is because an individual advertisement needs to deliver a single message a lot of the time, because it can be too overwhelming to deliver an ad that talks about the entirety of the product, the entirety of the solution, the entirety of the value proposition. So an ad could just talk about one benefit, one feature, one job to be done, one use case. You can also have a campaign that is positioned differently from your product, your brand, etc. So the campaign, for example, could talk about one benefit, and then each individual ad talks about the features or the reasons to believe that benefit. Or you could have the reverse, where you're talking about one feature and the benefits that come from that. Now, the other critical thing to understand is that the positioning can be different based on who you're targeting. So partners, for example, are going to care about things that are different from prospective customers. So prospective partners, you may position around certain types of value. Maybe the positioning is more around financial value, reimbursements, or strategic value that has very little to do with revenue. You can also position your product differently, and your advertisements, your messages, your emails, etc., differently based on the key personas that you're targeting, or the individuals within companies, or the different subsegments of your target customer. Another critical misunderstanding is believing that positioning is strategy. Now, this is a little bit of a linguistic debate, but for the sake of consistency, I would say that strategy is choosing target markets that you're going to participate in and how you create value in those target markets, which is for customers, for partners, and for your own company. So it's the target market and the value propositions. Positioning is more tactical. I wouldn't say it's completely tactical, because you're making big trade-off decisions when it comes to your messaging and stuff, but it's not as strategic as your value proposition. Basically, positioning is deciding what gets emphasized in your messaging in specific contexts, and those contexts are going to vary, and there's going to be various gradients where you're going to apply those positionings based on who you're targeting and whether you're talking about product positioning, brand positioning, or service positioning.